Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. Is it time to go for Erik ten Hag? We'll be talking about that this morning, and I suppose the first place to start is Manchester United have never had so few points and so few goals scored in a Premier League season ever. Erik ten Hag, after the game, said, "I have got no regrets about taking off Kobbie Mainoo for Scott McTominay, and McTominay brought more energy to the team in the second half and wasn't at fault for the goals." These are massively damning statistics, and I've got quite a big statement personally that I would like to make about Erik ten Hag, because there is no doubt that questions have to be asked. They have to be asked. When you've got fewer points and fewer goals than any other Premier League Manchester United side, you've got to ask those questions. Now, Erik was very keen after the game to list many reasons why we're not performing, and injuries would be those reasons. But also, before the game, he said we can compete against any team in this league. So what is the truth? Is this a manager squirming trying to survive when reality is he shouldn't survive? Well, look, I think the first big question we need to ask is, and get your comments in below, that's what this is all about. I'm not live, obviously, at the moment, but I will be live around 1 o'clock today for a live show. But got a few things to sort out on New Year's Eve this morning, but I did want to drop this video. If you're INEOS, and I think Erik ten Hag did say at the end of the game yesterday, in specifics, talking about Sir David Brailsford, he did say that that there's a lot of change that needs to be made, and they'll understand those changes that need to be made. But if I'm INEOS, there's two things I'm going to say. First of all, who do I want my manager to be? Yeah, how do I want to play? Do I want a Pep Guardiola? Do I want a Jurgen Klopp? Do I want a De Zerbi? Do I want an Ancelotti? Do I want a Sam Allardyce? So the first thing INEOS have to ask themselves is, what type of manager do you want at Manchester United? Because everybody's got an idea. If I ran a football club, I'd know what type of manager I want, and I'm not going to go and recruit Steve Bruce. So what type of manager do INEOS want? And how close is he to Erik ten Hag? That's the first question. The second question is, when you know what type of manager you want, do you have the players to suit that manager? And that, to me, is the big key in the favour of Erik ten Hag this morning, is because I do not believe that INEOS want a manager like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who plays counter-attacking football, which is boring to watch and is not what Manchester United's all about. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a homegrown Man United fan all his life, and he's a lot older than me. So if Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a homegrown Manchester United fan, then he's going to be very similar to those older fans in the fan base who appreciate what Manchester United is all about. Wing play, risk-taking football, high lines, that's what Manchester United is. So we've got the clues of what INEOS are going to want. And have we got the players to play that style of football? No, we haven't. So if I'm INEOS and I'm coming in, the manager is an issue and may become a sackable issue if we keep losing games. But also I've got to look at it and go, these players aren't sufficient to the way I want to play anyway. So that, to me, makes me move more towards the summer. And that's my big statement here. I was saying it to Faz in the group last night. I'm not opposed to Erik ten Hag being sacked in the summer. Mic drop. I could get up and walk away. But the explanation for that has always been consistent. I don't want ten Hag to go. I'd love him to turn it around. I do believe that the manager I wanted from Ajax has never really been here. And I'd love to know that question. Even if he gets sacked, I'd love to know, after he's done his NDA, where he can't talk about the club, I'd love to know why we brought this manager in from Ajax and we've never, ever been able to implement what he was doing there. Because that's the big disappointment for me. People go, oh, look at you changing your mind now. I'm not changing my mind. I'm just a realist. We've never got that manager. That's what I was excited about. And I think it goes back to what INEOS's principles are going to have to be, which is, have you got the players to play that style of football? And we haven't. And you know what? I'd love to run an experiment where Pep Guardiola wants the Man United job, and then you sit him down before the job and he does a public press conference and you say to Pep, can you get this team playing like Man City or Barcelona or Bayern Munich? And he goes, no, not without selling most of these players, because that's the reality. But look, people will still say, well, look, you talk about INEOS. I'm talking about now. We've just lost to Nottingham Forest. We've lost to Bournemouth. We've lost to West Ham in the last few weeks, Mark. It's not good enough. He needs to go. Look, would I sack Erik ten Hag right here, right now? No, I wouldn't. And I'll give you the three principles why. First of all, This will empower these players that have sacked previous managers. This will empower these players that clearly do not deserve to wear a Manchester United shirt. And this will empower those players to try again and con you all again, because they did it under Ollie, they did it under Ten Hag, and they did it under Van Gaal. A lot of them weren't here for Van Gaal, but it's a cycle. New manager comes in. I know they didn't do it for Rangnick, they only did it for half an hour, but they knew it was an interim. When a permanent manager gets the job, they'll do it. And they'll turn it on. And then you'll all fall for it, just like you did at the start of the Jose reign, just like you did at the start of Ollie reign, and just like you did at the start of the Ten Hag reign. You'll all fall for it, because the players will turn the tap on again, and they'll be hot. And then after about a year, they won't be. And we'll waste even more time. So I don't believe that sacking Ten Hag now is a good idea, because I absolutely categorically know 100%, and so do you, is that if we bring a new manager in or an interim manager, they will start trying again, and it will empower them. And player power at Man United is one of the biggest problems. And giving player power back to some of those shits is the worst thing we can do. I would rather see this season out and have a proper review. And that's the second thing I would say as well. The second reason I wouldn't sack Erik Ten Hag is also because we need this strategic review. What is a strategic review? It's a review of everything that's going wrong at Manchester United. It's the playing squad, it's the recruitment, it's the fitness. It needs a proper review. And if I'm reviewing things, one of the biggest holes would be not having the manager there. I need to know all the problems that Erik Ten Hag's had over the last 18 months, as much as I need to know what the feedback is from the fitness department, the recruitment team, the tea lady. I need to know all of that. And if I'm doing a strategic review, and Sir Jim Radcliffe says to Sir David Brailsford, I want you to sack Ten Hag tomorrow. If I'm Sir David Brailsford, I'm saying, with all due respect, Sir Jim, or Jim, because we're both Sirs, you can call me Dave, I need to talk to Ten Hag. He's one of the most important people for me to talk to. So what's the point in us sacking it now? Also, we're going to have to pay him 20 million quid, when if we do it in the summer, it'll be less money and I'll have more information. And also, what are we doing it for? Because we're not getting top four. We're not winning in Europe because we're out. Is it really going to do any major difference to do this in the summer? And biggest of all, Sir Jim, or Jim, is if we are going to sack this manager, who is going to replace him? Because I look at the list of people that are available at the moment. Graham Potter, absolutely not. Antonio Conte, absolutely not. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you're having a fucking laugh. Hansi Flick, what's the difference between him and Erik Ten Hag? And also, what happened the last time we brought in an interim foreign manager like Ralf Rangnick? They disrespected him. Lopetegui, I just don't get that one either. Hassenhult, you're having a laugh. So I'm like, if we're going to replace Ten Hag, you need to replace Ten Hag with something where everyone goes, wow, that's a good appointment. It can't be a risk. It can't be an unknown. It has to be somebody where everyone goes, wow. Because INEOS need the wow factor. They have to. They're not buying the club. They're buying 25%. The Glazers still own it. They're taking over the footballing side. If you're going to replace Ten Hag, you better do it with a coach that has, an aura about them. And to do that, you've got to go through a process. And a process doesn't happen in 2 or 3 days in late December and early January. This, for me, everything about this is now real. And what I mean by that is, I can't dispute the fact that the team is playing badly. I can't dispute the fact that there are some weird things I want to talk about in a moment about how we set up under Ten Hag. I can't dispute the fact that he's probably sacking himself. In fact, let's make another big statement this morning. Erik Ten Hag is sacking himself. But we've got, lowest goals we've ever had, lowest points we've ever had. It's not good. But there's a depression, there is a fatigue, and I am drained. But after a night's sleep, I still stay resolute that sacking the manager is short-term pain and long-term pain, whereas not sacking the manager until at least the summer will benefit us a lot better. And I think we all search for the quick fix. That's what it is. People are saying, he can't get away with it. He can't get away with it. And I get that. He can't get away with this, Mark. He's got to get sacked. I get that. God, I get that. I'm very frustrated. But we've done this so many times before. It's that definition of an insanity of doing the same thing again and again. I don't see what sacking Ten Hag now does in a positive way for this football club. I only see negatives. 3 negatives, massive ones. Player power wins. Replacement won't be sufficient. and the review will be massively damaged by not having Ten Hag part of it over the next few months. If we wait till the summer, we'll get a better manager. If we replace him, player power doesn't win and we get the review done. And that's where I'm at. And I might be in a minority here. I really might. But it's a deep breath thinking process. It's about what I think is best for Manchester United at this moment in time. And I think that we are in a real, I suppose the real talk is that I think we're in a major, we're in massive problem. I think we're almost, I think for 10 years, we've made so many bad decisions that the pile of shit we've accumulated at United is huge. And I look at that and I look at where we are and there is no quick fix and it's almost mission impossible. And I think we could make a decision on sacking the manager and actually make things a hell of a lot worse. We need to go through this review. We need to remove player power. And if the manager's going to go, you do it in the summer and you spend the next 5 months doing the work on the replacement. It's what we did with Van Gaal. It's the only thing we ever did right. It's what we did with Van Gaal. We waited till the end of the season and we had Mourinho lined up. If we'd have got rid of Van Gaal at Christmas, Mourinho didn't want the job. Mourinho wanted the job in the summer because he knew in the summer you get pre-season, you can sign players. He didn't want it in the January to take over a team that was struggling and get tainted by that. So for me, this is a very similar situation. Do I think Ten Hag will get the sack? I hope not. Do I think he's in danger? Yes. And he has to be. There's some big reasons why he has to be. But when you're coming out after the game and justifying one of the worst substitutions I've seen since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, and it sort of changed a little bit about Mainu. It was tactical, and I've got no regrets, he's played 3 games in a week. And I think he's having to drift away from that because he's probably been advised that coming out after a game and saying you've got no regrets and it was tactical has you being ridiculed by McGran, rest in peace. And what I mean by that is that there are so many people out there that are ridiculing that, from pundits to fans. And when the vast majority of the world know that you've made a massive tactical error and they might not necessarily know loads about football, you're in big trouble. He's even trying to say that the goals weren't McTominay's fault. Well, they are. They absolutely are. And you might go down another angle, like Ten Hag or Gary Neville, or blame the centre-backs. But what you can't do is you can't sit there as Ten Hag or anybody else and say, you're wrong when you say it was McTominay's fault. He's out of position on both plays. And yeah, incredible. Incredible that another manager could sack themselves using Scott McTominay. And McTominay wasn't the only reason that Solskjaer and Mourinho got sacked, but they had an obsession with him, and so does Ten Hag, and you wonder about the homework. And then the other thing I would say is that the individualisation of Anthony is very frustrating, because it's not Anthony's fault, right, that he cost 85 million euros. I always said at the time, I like the player for 50 million quid. 50 million quid was what we should have paid for him. And £50 million is what we would have paid for him if we'd got him in the June. But United messed up the summer transfer window and had to go desperate at the end of August. And he is not an £85 million player. And that is not his fault. And he will get blamed for it. Of course he will, because that's the same thing happened with Pepe at Arsenal. But this is not Anthony's fault. This is a staringly obvious error on the part of CEOs, Director of Football's recruitment. Anthony is just not that level of player. There's probably not that much of a difference between someone like Ahmad and Anthony. In fact, some people would say Ahmad's better. But you're swerving away from the main facts here. The main facts are what I spoke about at the start of the video. INEOS have got to look at what manager they want, and then have we got the players for that manager? And we haven't. And you've also got to look at the 3 core principles. If Ten Hag gets sacked now, the players win, and that will damage us for another 3 years. If you're going to replace Ten Hag, what are you going to replace him with? Because there's not enough out there at the moment, in my opinion. And the third and most important thing is that we need this strategic review, and you need Ten Hag to be part of that. And above all things, we've still got Martinez and Casemiro to come back at the middle of January that will make things better. They will. And I don't think they're going to make it a lot better, but they will make things better. And the season is basically over anyway. And when you swallow it, and you appreciate that the season is over, then it's always better when you're making a change to assess everything pragmatically than it is to go, get rid of him. And I think a lot of our fans at the moment are angry and saying, just get rid of him. But it terrifies me that if they sacked him tomorrow, what the alternative would be. I think we'd be in a worse position. We've got to play the longer game here, and we've got to wait until the summer. Get your comments in below. Smash a like on the video. I'm back live at about midday, and let us know. I thought it was too important not to do it. Let me know what your thoughts are.